The Iron Pens. Chapter 2. Ashes of Honor. 3 days passed before the sun returned. When it did, it brought no warmth. The storm had left the camp drowning in mud, but now the ground hardened beneath an unforgiving wind that swept down from the Alterac Mountains. Frost glittered atop the fences each morning, turning every iron spike into a spear of ice. The prisoners called it the season of brittle bones. Food grew scarcer. The camp commanders claimed supply wagons had been delayed, though few orcs believed them. Whether by neglect or intention, the portions shrank until the evening meal became little more than cloudy water with floating barley husks. The older orcs accepted it in silence. The younger ones stared at their bowls with quiet desperation. Durok noticed Karguk counting. 1 grain, 2, 3. He watched his younger brother fish tiny pieces of barley from the broth with trembling fingers, trying to make the meal last as long as possible. Durok pretended not to notice. Instead, every evening, he somehow found a reason not to finish his own. "I'm still full," he would lie. Karguk knew better. He also knew better than to argue. The lie became another ritual between them. One gave, the other accepted. Neither spoke of it. Work became harder. The trenches were finished, and the prisoners were reassigned to the lumber yard outside the western wall. Human soldiers had begun expanding the camp, constructing new barracks for fresh captives arriving from scattered prisons across Lordaeron. Every day wagons rolled through the gates. Every day more orcs climbed down. Some still carried scars from the Second War. Some wore the shattered remains of clan colors. Many simply stared ahead with empty eyes. One wagon brought an elderly Frostwolf shaman. Another carried Blackrock veterans who no longer remembered the names of their own children. One afternoon, Durok saw an orc wearing the faded red wolf emblem of the Warsong clan. The warrior was missing an arm. Their eyes met for only a heartbeat. Neither spoke. There was nothing left to say. The lumberyard demanded strength the prisoners no longer possessed. Massive pine logs had to be dragged by ropes through frozen earth, while guards on horseback shouted commands. Those who slowed were struck. Those who collapsed were beaten until they stood again. Or until they did not. Durok wrapped the rough rope around his forearm. "Ready?" asked Karguk. "No." His brother almost laughed. Almost. The whistle blew. Dozens of orcs leaned into the ropes. The log groaned forward only inches before sinking into frozen mud. Again, again, again. Every step burned. Every breath scraped at their lungs. The humans watched from horseback, comfortably wrapped in fur-lined cloaks. One of them chewed roasted meat while observing the prisoners. The smell drifted across the yard. Karguk closed his eyes. Durok nudged him. "Don't. I know. Keep walking." Near midday, one of the older prisoners stumbled. His name was Mogar. His beard had turned gray long before the camps, and the muscles that once carried axes into battle had wasted away into skin stretched over bone. He fell to one knee. The log stopped moving. The crack of a whip echoed through the yard. Mogar cried out. Again. Again. Blood soaked through the back of his ragged tunic. Still he tried to stand. His legs refused. The overseer dismounted without a word. He walked to the old orc, drew a short iron club from his belt, and struck him across the temple. The sound was sickening. Mogar collapsed face first into the frozen mud. No one moved. No one dared. The overseer looked over the prisoners. Anyone else tired? Silence. He kicked the old orc once. Mogar did not respond. "Throw him on the cart." 2 prisoners stepped forward. Durok recognized one of them as the one-armed Warsong veteran. Together they lifted the old warrior like a broken sack of grain. His hand dangled lifelessly toward the earth. A wedding cord of braided leather still circled his wrist. Someone, somewhere, had once loved him. That evening, the barracks were quieter than usual. No stories, no whispered memories, only coughing, only hunger. Karguk stared at the ceiling. Did we know him? Mogar. Yes. Durok searched his memory. I think father traded horses with him once. I don't remember. You were small. Karguk nodded. It frightens me. What does? Forgetting. Durok looked at him. The camps take everything. My strength. My clan. My memories. What happens when I forget mother's face? The question hung between them. Durok had no answer. Because some nights, he struggled to remember it too. Later, after the guards completed their final inspection, movement stirred in the darkest corner of Barrack 9. An elderly orc slowly rose to his feet. His back was bent with age. One eye was clouded white. His wrists still bore scars from chains worn years before. The prisoners watched silently. No one stopped him. The old orc cleared his throat. Then, in a voice barely louder than the wind outside, he began to sing. Not loudly, not proudly, softly. An ancient song of Draenor, a song older than the Horde. It spoke of green valleys beneath endless skies, of wolves running beside hunters, of children chasing wind through golden grass, of fires that never went cold. One by one, heads lifted, eyes closed. For a few precious moments, the walls disappeared, the mud disappeared, the iron disappeared. The camp itself seemed to fade beneath the weight of memory. Karguk leaned against Durok. I remember that song. So do I. Mother sang it. Durok nodded. Yes. Neither realized tears had begun running silently down their faces. The barrack doors exploded inward. Halt! Human guards stormed inside carrying lanterns. The singing stopped instantly. Sergeant Halbrecht stood in the doorway. His face twisted with disgust. What is this? No one answered. He walked directly to the old singer. So, you still have spirit. The old orc looked him in the eye. For the first time in years, someone smiled. It was a tired smile. But it was real. Halbrecht struck him across the mouth with the butt of his cudgel. Teeth scattered across the floorboards. Still, the old orc smiled. Again the cudgel fell. Again. The prisoners watched in absolute silence. Durok's hands curled into fists until his nails split the skin. Beside him, Karguk shook with rage. Don't, Durok whispered in Orcish. They're killing him. I know. We have to. We cannot. The words tasted like poison. The beating finally stopped. The old singer no longer moved. Halbrecht wiped blood from his cudgel against the dead orc's blanket. Next time, he growled, there will be 10. The guards left. The doors slammed shut. Silence returned. No one slept. Near dawn, Karguk finally spoke. They can beat us. Yes. They can starve us. Yes. They can kill us. Durok stared into the darkness. But they hated that song more than anything. He understood. It had not been a song. It had been proof. Proof that beneath the hunger, beyond the chains, under the bruises and the mud, the orcs were still a people, and that frightened their captors far more than any axe ever had. Durok reached over and clasped his brother's forearm. A warrior's grip. The grip their father had taught them before the dark portal had ever opened. No words were needed. If they forgot everything else, they would remember this. As long as one brother still stood, neither of them would face the darkness alone.